They say that a sense of belonging and social connectedness are vital to physical, mental, and emotional well being. I say the universe has a sense of humor because my talk about staying connected is pre recorded and taking place remotely. Although I can't present this talk in person, I'm extremely pleased that we're still able to connect, which is possible thanks to technology and, of course, John Wilker. Thanks, John. As much as I appreciate John getting us all together, technology plays a big part in how people connect. We connect online using social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We set up channels and communities using software like Discord and Slack. These solutions are useful, but I remember the before time. Now, this is the part where I'd normally ask the audience to raise their hands if they remember the good old days of BBSs, sysops, and modems. But since this is a pre-recorded session, and my audience consists of 9 cats, 3 dogs, a bearded dragon, an albino python, and a bird, I'll pretend there's at least a few of you who do remember and want to reminisce. Back in my day, getting online meant connecting your modem to a landline, dialing a local telephone number, and chatting with 2, maybe 3 other people at the same time. In the before time, most BBSs had only a handful of lines, which meant a lot of our personal interactions took place on text-based forms and not necessarily in real time. Unlike today, we didn't have the instantaneous back and forth conversations with multiple people. Sure, we had chat rooms, but they were on a much smaller scale and a lot more focused. For most of the 1990s, I was the co-sysop of the Tammy board BBS. The other co-sysop was my mother Elaine. To be honest, the BBS is what saved our relationship, but that's a story for another time. The Tammy board BBS offered online games, shared files, and FidoNet, which is what connected BBSs from around the world. It was sort of like a mini internet before the internet was cool. We also had an adult area on our BBS, which was a lot of fun, but definitely not something I would ever consider doing today. The interesting thing about then versus now is how fast we connect to other people and how many other people we can reach. Once again, thanks to evolving technologies, we now have small computers stuffed into our pockets that are always connected and always notifying us about the day's events. In the 90s, that wasn't the case. To give you some more idea of how things are different nowadays, in January 2021, just around the time I started tweeting less and stepping away from social media, I had 110,000 tweet impressions, 3,428 profile visits, 84 mentions, and 69 new followers, including a verified Twitter user and international correspondent. A connection that seems rather unlikely, but made possible thanks to Twitter. Although the Tammy board BBS was one of the most popular bulletin board systems in the area from 1990 to 1997, its reach was limited when compared to today's social media platforms. But what happens when those platforms get clouded with toxic conversations, hateful hashtags, and obnoxious people? Don't get me wrong, we had trolls in the 90s, but not like we do today. Back then, a troll's reach was limited. And more importantly, the BBS community was more like a tight-knit family than a group of strangers meeting online. In the BBS world, if a troll was spewing hate, the banhammer would crash down around them with more force than my favorite hero, Thor. But things are different today. Any clown with a keyboard can reach hundreds of thousands of people with a simple click of a button or a tap on the screen. Not that I would encourage you to do so, but if you take a stroll through the trending section on Twitter, you'll likely see a collection of tweets and comments that will either make your blood boil or curl you up into the fetal position. I have no idea how social media ended up where it is because it has such great potential. But whatever the case, it's not something I want to keep feeding or using. So I went dark. I didn't announce my departure. I didn't ask for advice. I simply just left. I removed the apps from my phone and I went on about my day. Look, I won't lie. Leaving social media wasn't and isn't easy. I'm self-employed, so making and keeping connections is part of what helps me build my business. But the level of toxicity on social media had reached epic proportions, and it's still climbing. And to be honest, I've had my fill. Sure, I tried to stay, but every time I logged on, I'd have to wade through the sludge and the muck. And as I was doing so, I kept thinking to myself, there must be a better way to stay connected. As it turns out, there is, and it was under my nose the entire time. I now use text messaging, phone calls, and emails to stay in touch with friends, family, and business associates. Oddly enough, our conversations are more personal, and we're more connected now than we ever were before. I'll admit that the idea of being less connected to social media can make you more connected to other humans sounds a little counterintuitive, but I've seen it work. Sadly, though, being privately connected to the people you already know is hardly enough to keep growing your business. So what can you do? In my case, I suppose I could have ignored the muck and continued to grow my business. It certainly was an option then, just as it is now. But I really don't feel like dealing with all that negative energy. I'm guessing you probably don't either since you're listening to this talk. So, what can you do? Well, I suppose I really can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what I did. And what I did was, well, I set up alternate accounts. And I asked a trusted friend to run them on my behalf. The good news is that she doesn't mind social media, and since these accounts are laser focused on a few keywords and phrases and not tied to me or my daily happenings, it works out pretty well, and I'm able to keep those connections happening. Sure, this may not be the perfect solution, and maybe it won't work for you, but it allows me to have a presence online that is separate from myself and, more importantly, separate from the muck. Have I seen a drop in sales, contracts, and contacts? Sure. But not having to deal with the ever-increasing toxicity on social media has actually made me more productive, which in turn has helped me and my business. I know, kind of weird, right? After dropping out of the social media scene, I've more time, more patience, and more focus, which isn't that easy when every little thing grabs your attention. But I work more efficiently now, and I finish tasks in less time. I also have more energy, and I feel better. The upside of that is I get to spend more time with my friends and family. I'm not really sure they're happy about that, but hey, that's on them. All kidding aside, the bottom line is that I have a new appreciation for the relationships I have, both personally and professionally. It's like all of those conversations where I was screaming into the void have been replaced with deeper and more meaningful conversations. And if we've chatted at a conference before, you know that I prefer those types of conversations over the fluff of small talk. So, as a technology advocate, I kind of feel weird about ditching something that was supposed to make connecting to other people easier. I sort of feel like I've betrayed the very thing that's given me so many opportunities that I would otherwise not have. But the truth is, technology is a double-edged sword, and how you wield it is entirely up to you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. And if you'd like to stay connected with me, you can send me an email to tammy@justrightcode.net. By the way, I'm still getting used to checking my inbox, so if I don't respond right away, please don't take it personally. I hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference. And again, thank you.